saw here. And maybe Planner Shorkey can help with this. I see several names in everything that I read. I see Urbana, and is that the applicant?
So the applicant is Hazlitt Gallery Inc. Urbana is the doing business as name.
Okay, so you're doing business as Habana. So Hazlitt Gallery Incorporated is doing business as Habana. Is that an appropriate assumption?
Yes, it's the trade name. It's registered with the state. Sir.
Okay. Then who is Meridian RE Ventures LLC?
I believe Meridian RE Ventures was an original applicant that we had. Are you looking at the lease?
I looked at the lease, yes, sir.
Yes, and then that lease was assigned to, it was actually the same owner of Meridian RE Ventures, also owned Hazlitt Gallery. So they assigned the lease to Hazlitt Gallery.
Well, I noticed that the president of Hazlitt Gallery is the same person who is the manager of Meridian RE Ventures LLC. Tell me, what's the relationship in all of these companies?
They're owned by the same person.
Why so many?
Well, I could go into asset diversification here,
Okay.
but that would be one of the reasons to do it. For instance, just a little bit, I usually tell clients that if you're going to have an interest in ownership in land, and you're also going to have an interest in your business, you'd likely rather have put those into two different entities, such as two different LLCs or whatnot. One of the reasons why you would do that is, let's say a driver of your business, unfortunately, injures another party, right? You get sued by that other party. If all of your assets are under the same LLC or corporation, well, then all of your assets are at risk. But if your assets are in different organizations, not all of your assets would be at risk. Only the assets under the one organizations that had the offending party would be at risk.
Thank you. Now I want to look at the attachment B, employment and hours of operation. I'm not clear on that page.
I'll bring that up.
Okay. It says hours of operation that HG,
There we go.
which I'm going to assume that's Hazlitt Gallery, correct?
Yes, sir, I believe we defined it at the start of the document.
Okay, will operate from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays and limited hours on weekends. But when I look at the schedule that you have down here, day of week, I see Monday through Sunday, hours of operation, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. Can you help me understand that inconsistency there, please, sir?
I would certainly base it on the schedule, and it is likely in line with your ordinance operating hours, which are certainly in there.
So which one are you going to be following?
The schedule.
Okay. So disregard the statement above.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any more questions.
Thank you. Does anyone else have questions for staff or for the applicant? Commission at this point? Okay. Commissioner O'Connell, please.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, we might have one more. Sorry, not so fast, sorry.
The lease agreement was just fascinating. I think Commissioner Scales and I invested some valuable time this afternoon. I was particularly interested in attachment G. And I'm afraid I don't have the page number in the PDF for that one in my little scrolling notes here. This is after the lease and after the traffic.
Attachment G starts on page 80 of the PDF.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
And that's the cover sheet.
People through?
Needless to say, this was a 104-page packet.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. That first paragraph, the the third full sentence, beginning on the fifth line, the project is a consumer-facing business which anticipates interactions with customers can take around 10 minutes, which makes perfect sense to me. Similar to those interaction times that are taking place at other nearby businesses, including salons, professional services, and targeted retail establishments. I don't know. I don't go to salons. Can you get in and out in 10 minutes? Is that a thing? Professional services, I think there's a tax consultant. That seems like a pretty rapid, I'd like to spend more than 10 minutes with my tax advisor. So I was just curious. The following sentence then says, this project is the exact same type of land use as the current retailers in this area. And in addition, well, so here's my beef. If it were the exact same type of business as all those surrounding it, we wouldn't be having this hearing. So I was just wondering if the applicant wanted to clarify those issues of the similarity of the business that's stated here and help me understand that.
Yeah, it's consumer-based retail transactions, right? Like many of those things up above, you're not always going to the salon or tax for long meetings. Many times you're making a stop by to sign certain documents or maybe taking care of other things. At this point, we have people that pull into our stores, they drive, they open up the door, they come inside, they do their shopping, and they leave. Very similar to most everything that operates down these particular roadways in the city and in the particular township. It's a retail-based business.
Thank you. I think my related question may be for staff. On page 75 of the PDF, there was some reference in the traffic study to, I know the traffic studies use a standardized manual that gives trip generation estimates for different types of businesses, and it looked like this was more small office buildings.
Again, I do not have any forms for public comment for this public hearing. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak at this public hearing? Okay, then I will close the public hearing at 8:08 PM and then open it up to commissioner comments or further questions if you have them. I knew it. Commissioner Scales. Go ahead.
Well, issue that we went through with this, I don't find any pushback from the neighbors. Did I miss something?
No.
And our 300-foot range were notices sent?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Follow-up question to Commissioner Scales. Are there any residential areas within that 300-foot area? Do you know? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
Okay.
It does go out, there is a notice in the paper as well, but,
Well, and our packets are public on the township website too.
just to pull this up again. This is 2119. Okay, so 300 feet away from that, no, I mean, let's see, I've learned that, just okay. Okay, so here I can turn this on.
Planner short cannot see.
Feet. So that measurement is almost 200,
Whoa,
almost
that
300
was
feet
good.
there. Yeah, do this a little bit. So you got, let me shut that off or I'll start doing measurements again. You've got these parcels here that are residences. So you've got in here, that is family trust. So there's some residences that were in that 300-foot.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions from commissioners or thoughts?
I don't have any more.
All right, I will entertain a straw poll vote of likelihood of supporting the special use permit number 24017 when it comes before us next. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, staff. Bernie, you have direction. And now we are on to unfinished business number 8A, and we have a text amendment number 24010, section 36377, RN Village of Namoka ordinance update.
Okay, you've seen this a few times, you've had the public hearing, you've got a resolution of approval, you've got language as to what it'll look like. Just to review, it'll take the references out of the language as vis-a-vis the land use, special land use, and dimensional regulations. So, and then cleans the uses up a little bit to bring them a little bit more bring them into conformance with Michigan planning law and take out a couple inconsistent uses with the Village of Namoka area, especially golf courses, which I don't think anyone wants to see that developed into.
Okay. Any questions, thought? Oh, I guess we can entertain a motion. I know Commissioner Brooks, you had one thing you wanted to flag as a change, but we do have a draft resolution of support in our packet. If somebody would like to move that, Commissioner McConnell has moved. Is there a second?
I move to adopt the resolution recommending approval of zoning amendment number 202406 in accordance with the revised draft ordinance language.
Thank you.
Second, please.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Snyder. So we have a motion to approve text amendment number 24010. I will not read the entire thing. Any discussion?
I think this is where I would put forward is this an amendment?
Yes.
Amendment that the correct township supervisor name be put in place. And it currently has Patricia Karen Jackson.
Where?
In the resolution.
Resolution.
Oh, okay. That's kind of how long we've been discussing this. Sorry about that. No, that's no problem.
So
Okay.
if the mover and the seconder are okay, I'd consider that a friendly amendment. Okay.
That's technically not
Not even-
an amendment to the
Okay.
your resolution.
Okay.
It
So just a
It
correction.
just fixes a screw
Got
up on our
it. Thank
part.
you. Cool. Any other discussion, thoughts,
favorite.
questions? And Commissioner Romback, I know you're new, so if you have questions, please feel free to ask them, if you have any.
Not at this time.
Okay. With that, then, if there are no questions, I will call the vote. Commissioner McConnell,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Romback,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Scales?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, the motion is approved. Thank you. And now we are at special use permit number 24012. That's item 8B on the agenda, the Consumers Energy Transfer Station, special use permit for Consumers Energy.
I will note the applicant is represented if you have any questions. You saw this at the public hearing. This is a gas regulator station on the northeast corner of Lake Lansing Road and Rutherford Drive. This special use permit will follow site plan approval. Based on the conversation we had 2 weeks ago, recommendations approval. And you do have a resolution in your packet to that effect.
Would somebody like to move that resolution?
I just have a question about the resolution. If you look on page 98, it appears as though someone already offered a movement on that and it was supported.
Oh, That is the danger of cut and paste function. It's no problem. We will certainly replace them with those appropriate names.
Got it. Okay, so who would like to move that resolution?
Sounds like you.
No. Commissioner Scales should do it just to.
Just so we don't have to delete it. I know. And then you can go and
I'll do the next one.
Okay, I move to adopt the resolution for special use permit number 24012.
Okay?
Thank you. Is there a second?
Sure.
Okay, Commissioner McConnell, moved by Commissioner Snyder, seconded by Commissioner McConnell. Any discussion? Hearing none, I will call the vote. Commissioner Snyder. Approved. Commissioner McConnell.
Yes.
Commissioner Scales.
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Rombach.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes, so that motion carries. Thank you. Now we are at other business, 9A. We have a resolution of appreciation for our former commissioner, now Township Board member, James McCurtis. Would somebody like to move that, Mr. Scales?
And I want to read it in for the record.
Please, thank you.
Unfortunately, trustee McCurtis is not in attendance, but he was here at our last meeting, and he thanked us for the time that he served with us, the things that he learned, and the things that he educated us on. So, whereas James McCurtis began his public service to the township starting in 2023, when he was appointed to the Planning Commission, and whereas during his 2-year tenure as Planning Commissioner, Mr. McCurtis has ably represented the interests of this Planning Commission and the citizens of Meridian Township, serving on the Planning Commission and also serving on the Zoning Board of Appeals. And whereas Mr. McCurtis worked tirelessly to advance and achieve the goals and objectives adopted by this commission and the Township Board selflessly, contributing valuable focus, perspective, insight, and energy to our most challenging efforts and subsequent accomplishments to the decision-making process. And whereas Mr. McCurtis has been appointed to the Meridian Board of Trustees and must resign from the Planning Commission, now therefore be it resolved by the Township Planning Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, wishes publicly to recognize, commend, and thank James McCurtis for invaluable contributions to and impacts on the work of the commission and the quality of life in this community. This commission is grateful for your outstanding public service and wishes you well in your future pursuits. Be it further resolved that the Township Planning Commission of the Charter Township of Meridian, Ingham County, Michigan, hereby adopts this tribute of appreciation to Planning Commissioner James McCurtis as presented.
Thank you very much. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Snyder. Any discussion? I'll just say I know I appreciated working with Commissioner McCurtis and appreciated his time and thoughts here as it verbalized in this motion, in this resolution. And sorry that he's not here, but I trust that he will accept our warm wishes as it's presented to him.
Meetings already.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he'll be keeping very busy. Yeah, he's been here. So anyway,
We're sending them plenty of work.
thank you. I will call the roll if there are no other comments. Commissioner Scales?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Commissioner Rombach?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Support?
Commissioner McConnell?
Aye.
And the chair votes yes, so the resolution is adopted. Thank you. Now we are on to Other business, 9B, corridor improvement authority appointment. Assuming that's because that position is vacant because Commissioner Brooks has moved to the zoning board of appeals and we need a representative from the township.
I'll let Commissioner Brooks explain more, but we got an email indicating that Commissioner Brooks was happy to be on the zoning board of appeals, but did not feel like he could handle both. Or did I miss, you're looking at me funny, did I misread you?
Yeah, but I think I thought that they were on the same day, and that was partially because of the Juneteenth holiday, I think, because they got moved. But no, I think I did look at the calendar, and I think they are on the same Wednesday.
But we have a new commissioner.
However, that being said, exactly. And I just got the packet for the one this week, and
Welcome to the board.
This is kind of a large, you can see in July, corridor improvements at 6, zoning board of appeals at 6:30. You're right.
yeah.
Is that typical or,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
their meeting day.
all right.
Before we fix it on them, should we explain what it is?
Yep, that might be a good idea to explain it for Commissioner Brooks, as the most recent appointee to the CIA, please share a little bit about
So,
what you do.
So
Oh, there we
I
go,
don't-
this is helpful on the screen also.
yeah, so I would say you're not obligated to do this. However,
Right,
the group is basically working on all things related to Grand River and that corridor specifically. So the most recent thing that's happened there is that they've voted to create a tax incremental finance plan, which is raising or taking public funds from taxes collected and then using those to reinvest in that corridor. And so the whole work of the CIA over the next, it's got to be the next several years, will be on developing a strategy for using these funds, building out an application and strategic plan for those funds, and then start distributing them as businesses request them. Did I say that adequately enough?
Yeah, I think so.
So that's what it is. And so you're, as the planning commissioner representative, you're not a voting member. And you're basically listening and offering the position of the planning commission and anything that we're working on related to that.
and then serving as a liaison, so at the end of our agendas, you'll see liaison reports, and then any of our members who are our representatives to any of these other entities will share updates of most recent meetings and activities and kind of help create that dialogue back and forth between us. And so we are not pressuring you to take this. If you are interested, we would love to have you be our representative. If not, we'll have to continue to twist some arms until we find someone, so.
Here's a little more convincing. We used to be a 9-member board, now we're a 7-member board, and all of us share in some other boards or commissions. So we spread the work out pretty evenly, and now that we're 2 members or less, a lot of us are doing 2 boards and commissions along with this commission.
So the only thing I run into is at that particular Wednesday date, I take my son to golf practice that day. So I'm at least booked through summer, would be my stance there, because at that same time, my 2 other daughters have gymnastics and my wife goes there. So I have my son at golf.
That's a good defense.
Yeah, just say no more.
So that is my hesitancy for now. And actually, personally, I serve on 4 other boards.
So question for you, Mr. Shorkey. I know with the ZBA, it's a little bit different because it has like a statutory role. But as our liaison to this board, I know continuity would be helpful, but could we get by with sort of hodgepodging it a little bit of having one person do it 1 month and then having a sub or a backup because they're not a voting member of that body?
I'd have to get back to you.
Could you check, unless there's somebody who would be willing to volunteer?
I think that's kind of an interesting, not to make this too complicated, but I think that's kind of an interesting idea too, to be able to get more of a sense of the other boards too. I realize that we can attend at any time. to any board meeting, but, I mean, it could be a solution that could work for other boards too in the future if it's feasible and allowable.
I mean, from a staff standpoint, we create mailing lists and updating that on a monthly basis is, you know, but
I think if we opted to go in that direction, what I would like to have is somebody who is the person, and then one or more others who are willing to be the backups, and it would be on the person to say, I can't go this month, could you go on my behalf?
that's a more feasible.
If that would make
Yeah,
it easier for you.
totally.
I think that might make sense.
Yeah.
And,
The one, I would say that the one, I think, benefit to having somebody there is that the CIA in particular is doing the TIF is fairly technical, and like, I guess unless you've been involved in them before. And so it requires building up some knowledge
that's a good point.
that you kind of lose. Now, that group has only met 4 times, I think, in the past, like, maybe 4 to 6 times in the past, I don't know, a year, probably. So it's not meeting all the time. It's just the problem is it's at the same time as the ZBA, so.
I wonder if another solution might be to tap, I mean, they generate minutes, right? The CIA?
I'm sorry?
The CIA generates minutes, you know.
Yeah.
I believe so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just trying to think if there's another way to summarize what
They
happened.
generate excellent minutes.
Yeah, but Amber staffs that,
Yeah.
okay, so, yeah.
I just know that I cannot commit to a 6 o'clock meeting. I just don't get out of work until, it's hard to get here at 6:30, so there's no way that I could. make
Who's the
that
other
work on a
person we're
regular
missing this
basis.
evening?
Commissioner Bloomer.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess, can we put this on our next agenda and have people think about this? And if you could check on what our options might be, if somebody could, if we have the ability to sort of send a designee and somebody would be willing to nominally be our representative and review minutes if nothing else, we could perhaps get by. Can we change our mind on the shrinking of the planning commission?
Well, I think that Commissioner Scales makes a good point, that by reducing our number, we increase that load, and it may be that we can't have all those liaisons we enjoyed as a 9-member group, and
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Transportation Commission has also not met in quite a long time.
Yeah, well, and I know many of them meet during the day, which is even more impossible for any of us who have, jobs that require working.
You to work.
Well,
Required to actually be here.
There are days, like if I know I'm working from home on a particular day, I could probably zip over here by 6, but my days are different each week and you just never know, and I'd end up probably missing a lot of them. So, okay, to be continued, we'll put that one on pause for a minute, and we are now to item 10A, Township Board Update under reports and announcements.
Township Board update. So at the last meeting, the township did approve the recreational marijuana license for Area 3 for the DVNK people. You'll recall that they were in last year for special use permit for climate controlled storage units. Looking ahead, there will be potentially modification. No, sorry, it isn't approved agenda yet. So that's my report.
Okay.
don't
Thank
say
you.
it publicly.
Appreciate that. Any questions for Mr. Shorkey? Oh wait, this comes under project reports, right?
Oh,
I was gonna say, I've seen announcements of an opening of a certain specialty grocer.
I believe I saw the date is June 28th.
Yes, I saw that too.
They might have the most wild grand opening of any.
I'm not going
business.
anywhere near here.
They're gonna need a traffic study.
Yeah,
Yeah, just for the opening.
yeah,
How about the coffee shop next to Playmakers? Do
yeah, there you go.
we have a date? Do we know?
Oh, that,
I haven't heard.
Trader Joe's, isn't that?
I thought it was in front of,
The one I'm thinking of is next to the construction company, CL Construction, in front of Playmakers.
oh,
Right next to Lotte Mart,
okay, cool.
there at the
And
end.
then some realtors have taken over the old tuck shop.
That is true.
Oh, yep, I saw that.
That is true.
Corridor buzzing.
Excellent. Cool. Good job, Mr. Commissioner Brooks.
Beautiful.
I don't think that was me, but I kept talking about a coffee shop right there, because I can.
Good job, Amber
I can-
Clark.
Yeah.
I can walk to it.
Whatever happened to that coffee shop that we were, the
The Bank of
unnamed,
America.
yeah, the unnamed coffee shop.
Yeah, actually, can we name it now?
They are in a holding pattern and site plan review at this time.
Okay.
Have they
So
yet to
they've-
name it, or no, still?
No,
I'm just curious.
no. I know of what you speak, and they are in the process.
Awesome. Thank you. We are at 10B, liaison reports. Does anybody have a liaison report to share?
The, no.
Anyone else?
The Brownfield
Oh,
the Brownfield Development Authority did not meet, and the EDC did not meet. Yet one of the byproducts of the EDC was the Juneteenth celebration, and I attended that, and that was very well attended, and a lot of fun was had by all.
excellent. Thank you. Anyone else?
The Environmental Commission has not met since we last met. I was copied on some communication to township staff today regarding a matter that was on our agenda this evening, or then not on our agenda. I can elaborate under commissioner comments.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, project updates, item 11A.
So I didn't have any changes in the report, so I didn't have it in here, but I had a question for you. Looking ahead to your next meeting, you've got 3 unfinished business items, and then assuming I don't get any last minute things, tomorrow is the application deadline for July 22nd, and I don't have anything at this time. Do you want a planning meeting, or do you want a night off? Because it might be a good time to talk about some planning stuff that we don't get to talk about, and, 1 or 2, if you got some suggestions, 1 or 2 things. Parking, bike plan, these are things internally we've been looking at, but
We had a couple of things on our sort of agenda for this year to talk about, and we've been so busy, I don't think we've really had opportunity to delve into any of those. So if you feel like you could be ready to bring 1 or more of those topics to us, I'm sure people have vacations coming up. I know that mine falls outside of our planning commission meeting, so I know I'll be here at both of those meetings, but.
that's why I wanted to bring it up. I know it's later in July, and
Yeah.
it's,
If you're able, I don't know if anyone wants to prioritize from that list or if there's anything else you want to bring, but I like the idea of having something and just know that not everybody may be able to be here. And we understand you have
okay.
lives and.
It'll just kind of, we'll have 1 or 2 specific things to update you on, and then just kind of a planning related, where's things going with the master plan, maybe a 6-month checkup kind of a thing. Is that, okay, no problem.
And if you have anything specific that you would like staff to work on, share it with Mr. Shorkey, and if you wouldn't mind copying
Yeah.
him.
We had some questions earlier about the green space plan, and I don't believe it does reside on the township's website, but it is available at the website of the consultant Greenway Collaborative as a servable PDF.
Well, that would have been nice to know an hour and a half ago.
It took me a minute to find it again on my phone, but they do have it, and you can download it there.
That's the 8th.
The 22nd.
The 22nd.
Our next
22nd.
meeting on the 8th, we have scheduled 3 unfinished business items that, and one of them I suspect is going to generate a lot of public comment based on tonight.
Right.
So I think keep the 8th
Eat
as
dinner
is.
before that meeting.
Yes,
Right.
not like what I did. Oh, I'll
I
eat
know.
when I get
I
home.
know.
I'm fine. Okay, so nothing, the project reports, we have nobody here to provide public comment, so I think we can go on to commissioner comments. Commissioner Connell, you have a comment?
Sure. The communication I was forwarded is very similar to many of the public comments we've heard at our hearings about the natural character of the parcel we were considering for rezoning on Dobie Road. And as part of research I've done in the past with Michigan State University's Air Photo Archive, I have some older historical photographs that I look back to for situations like this. So in 1938 and 1950 and 1955, that parcel was clearly being cropped. Shows all the signs in the old aerial photographs of having been under row crops. In 1963, a house was built on one of those parcels, and it later grew to become what is the current church building. So at the time when that first building was constructed, there were no trees on the parcel, just the property boundaries along Dobie and behind in the back. So it was in that completely cultivated state as recently as 1963. And if you look at Google Earth, back from 1999, you can see the parking lot being put in place and that building being expanded. So it just helps me remember the heritage of our township and its land use. And when we look at a parcel for its natural characteristics, supportive of wildlife, township staff, despite being really overworked, in my view, provided a really detailed response about just how much green space we have in the township that provides habitat and how we've been very strategic about purchasing and considering parcels for purchase to achieve those goals. And we've been wildly over-successful, way more than we ever planned to do. So it helps me to go back and look a little bit in the past and see when we're trying to consider the value that an unbuilt parcel provides to the township or the area.
So do you think that we are building, or that this parcel specifically is, what do you mean based on all that for this specific parcel?
My interpretation of the pattern of cultivation and construction is identical. The parts that were too wet to farm were left and weren't farmed. Many were drained, so they became farmable. But the parts that ended up being built were largely those parts that were either didn't need to be drained or were successfully drained. And when we look at our wetland map and our priority conservation corridors, they pretty well mesh with the things that were too hard to farm and not worth building on. And now we've protected them, so there's restrictions on being able to build in those areas. And what it tells me is if people were farming it for half a century and then started building houses on it without drains, it probably is not one of those unbuildable parts that tend to provide very high habitat value because they're wet and they support a lot of species. So the same things that make it hard for farming and building make it better for wildlife conservation.
So if I can just synthesize, you're saying that because this used to be farmland and there was just no house built on it yet, but it was still cultivated, then it could be an appropriate space for building as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow the.
It could have been confusing. I guess I get.
think that sounds like what he said, but
Okay.
sounds like what I heard.
Piggybacking on what you said, and this is sort of a general statement that will probably get me in trouble at some point in the future, but I am always uncomfortable. I love the green space that we have in the township. And I know that the decision before us in many of these cases is to rezone to allow for more density, and I think that's an important question that we need to answer. But when a property is already zoned at some type of residential, it is not the decision of us or the township to decide whether or not it can be built. They already have the right, and so while it may be a lovely space for those who live adjacent to that property, the property owner's right to develop their property remains, and we have an ability to say whether it should be developed more densely than it's currently allowed to do, but we don't, and that's something that I wrestle with sometimes, because I know as a neighbor, when you're used to having property that has been undeveloped, it's hard to see it become developed when it's been sort of your neighborhood woods, but that is not something that we necessarily have the ability to stop or prevent, and the property owner does have that right. So it's a hard thing to say when people are upset, but it is, I think, fundamental to the work that we do.
I can give you an example of something recent. The fire station. I was on the board when we dealt with the fire station. And the residents that were across the street in the new, at that point, the new condos directly to the north of the fire station were up in arms that we would put a fire station right in front of them. And fortunately, it was us, the township, that was the applicant, basically. I'm using that term applicant loosely. But we made a lot of shifts and changes because we listened. We listened to each and every one of their arguments, and we tried to address everything. We moved the building further to the to the west than where we were originally going to put it. We moved the driveway. We put up the traffic light on Okemos that could be controlled from the fire station so the fire trucks don't have to leave out blazing sirens and light pollution in their houses. So we listened, and I saw everyone here taking notes, listening to everything that was said, and I think that we can come up with not suggestions, because we can't offer anything to the applicant on this situation, but we can have some conversation during our public hearing, expressing how we feel about certain things that we know to be true that we've heard from the residents. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage us to utilize the notes that we had.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's a really good reminder, and I think that I've seen it work well here in Meridian Township. I've seen it work well when I was on the Lansing Planning Board, when I lived in the city of Lansing, that nothing is made worse by listening and hearing people out, so.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments, commissioner comments?
I have a question on that topic. Is there an easy way to go through previous meetings to identify which meeting it was in March where we heard, and this goes back, I think, to what Commissioner Brooks had asked about at the previous meeting. Like, there was something there that felt
Can you finish the,
dishonest. So the applicant, I think it was the,
Park Lake Road.
no, I'm talking about Faith Lutheran Church.
Oh.
I think her first name is Cecilia.
Cecilia?
But she spoke about the desire to have it rezoned and the reasoning behind it, but I don't remember that. So how hard is it to find, and what date was that?
Oh, I've got to go, I'm gonna have to go back through probably to the beginning of 2022 when you started talking about master plan stuff and go back through minutes.
Okay, so there's no
But I mean,
easy way to
I'm
search.
gonna do that.
Well, no, you can
That's the
search
information
PDFs.
that Commissioner Brooks asked for, and I'm putting it
If you've got
together
local
for.
copies, you can search a whole set of PDFs and find Cecilia Kramer every time.
Oh,
You can search her name.
right, but I didn't know you could pull together all the PDFs together.
Well, I mean, yeah, I can search a PDF, but I have to go and download
Right.
each and every.
That's what I mean.
PDF. I can't just go to the township
But you're
website.
saying there's a way to do it.
I used to have a subscription to Adobe Acrobat that allows you to do that. I retired and I no longer have access to that tool.
So I'm sorry, and I missed what you said. Were you saying something about providing anything to Commissioner Brooks about that?
At the public hearing, Commissioner Brooks asked for a synopsis of the conversations that we had with Faith Lutheran Church. And I was gonna put together the list of dates.
I would be very interested in that also.
That happened, but I mean, they were far and away the most active people we had.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have two other requests, Mr. Shorkey, that I'm hoping you can help us with. But I also recognize that the staff are have a lot on their plate.
You just heard me schedule a talking session for July 22nd.
I know, so this
So you're
is.
hitting me at a good time.
You let me
okay?
in a little bit. I'm really curious in the meeting coming up. I would love to get, I'm really hoping that we can get an update on the parking portion, the parking
Yeah.
stuff that you've been working on. In relation to that and other issues in the master plan, I think over the past, 6 months that we've been doing this, there's been, at least compared to the first year I was doing this, there was a large number of the public who have come to our meetings, which has been really good. And they've had lots of different comments. And one of the themes that I feel like we're hearing is sidewalks and walkability at some level. And so this evening, one of the examples was on Dobie is that when there was a rain, the sidewalk would flood and then people had to walk up on something to get around the flooding, which could be dangerous depending on what the traffic is like. And so that got me thinking about this. And I know that in the master plan, we talk about walkability and improving that at some level. So my request, I don't know exactly what this looks like, is do we have a plan in place that looks at sidewalks and their walkability, or a plan for building out our sidewalk system or maintaining it? And you're looking like you're going to answer because you already know the answer.
So you're using the word sidewalk. We have in our ordinances the word pathway.
Pathways.
So if
Okay.
that's what probably what you're talking about on Dobie Road. That's township. And we have a recently updated pathway. They call it a pathway plan. It's a map. Having said that, a couple years ago, we got honorable mention, the township got honorable mention, bike-friendly community from the American League of Bicyclists. And one of the big comments on why it wasn't like bronze was, we don't have a true bike plan. We have a map. Looking at that level is one component of such a thing, but this is not a small task. The more I've looked into how to put together a quick and easy bike, there is no quick and easy bike plan. I've looked at it. I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, we do have a recently updated pathway map. We call it pathway pathway, it says pathway plan. It's an AutoCAD map.
And it accounts for like these sort of pockets where like if there is flooding, then you can't get around it?
No, it's looking at where should pathways go.
I see. I see.
It's a very high level, it shows existing and proposed pathway routes. Because we have this, MSU to Lake Lansing Phase 1 and 2, that had been shown on previous plans as a proposed route. Guess what? We're getting it. No case have it.
There's a difference between pathways and sidewalks.
Yeah. So the other comment here, and I know everyone, I'm ready to go home too. So my other comment related to the sidewalks pathways is that there's I feel like there's quite a few neighborhoods in the township that don't have sidewalks. And I don't know all the reasons for those, but I, for one, am really interested in promoting more walkable communities in some way and thinking through like what that looks like in relation to the pathway stuff.
Sure. Now, the local neighborhood sidewalks isn't pathway. Those are neighborhood sidewalks,
Right.
different standard, usually, hey, the
Different
homeowner's got to
widths.
go out with shovels, things like that. And some of the older developments, before we mandated sidewalks in new residential developments, you're right, they didn't have them.
Okay.
New construction as it comes online has the requirement to install sidewalks.
Okay, so, and then my last request, and then I'll be quiet. And this one is for next month's meeting, I'm hoping, but I realize this might be a big ask, is I feel like we've talked about this at some level, the ratio of owned houses to rental properties in the township.
Yeah.
And so we get these requests, or we've talked about several developments like the Fetawa one, which is going to be a rental community. And then the Copper Creek one, which is going to be ownership. But I feel like we've had far more rentals. And I'm curious what our ratio is of rental to owned housing in the township.
I think it was that question that got me looking at putting the project report together in the first place.
Yeah, no, I think it
had
was.
a list
So,
of,
I'm following that up a little bit.
but you want a total list of,
Maybe not a total, at least I would like to know the broad breakdown and how it's changing over time.
I might be able to get you the number of rental permits. Because remember, rental licenses in the township.
Well, so the other reason I'm asking is because with the Fetawa project, it's like, do we move forward with that because somebody's here and saying they want to do it? And they're offering rentals, but also that's potentially developable land, and we don't have to agree to that. We could say we'd like to hold off and wait for the housing market to cool off more, and then we're willing to move forward with that. I'm just proposing, thinking out loud here related to this mixture, because we have lots of rentals that are getting ready to hit the market. And we only have so much land.
That is something I've been eternally interested in as well. And I've said this before in similar language, but it's hard for me to look at rezonings to anything multiple family when it seems as though that's, one of the things that we're being asked to do repeatedly, but also when the developments that are coming in appear to be a lot of the multifamily, and additionally, the income required to live in one of these rentals is just beyond the missing middle.
Yeah.
So, this has been a repeating concern for me too. I'd love to see visually, like, what is happening? What is the transformation, and what land is left that could feasibly be developed?
Okay, that's a question I can answer on the 22nd. I've worked extensively on a current land use GIS layer. And I can measure inside and outside developable land. The service bound. Yeah, I can get you that information.
Saginaw Road is your last area.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to
That's okay.
I don't know if that responds to what you were asking for.
It's related, yeah.
Okay.
I'll reiterate something the chair said. If you want me to research something, maybe I can tie stuff together, put it together. I'm not opposed to doing quick presentations. on the 22nd and email me. Just let me know your questions. That might be maybe I can put them together and give you 2 or 3 different things. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, but I'm gonna
So
stop
you want
doing that. 'Cause
well,
it's
would
late.
that be helpful? And do you want those into addition to the comments that we just gave?
No, I want you to email me.
Okay, all right.
I like feedback.
Okay, all right, I'll send you an email.
Okay.
And not only that, it would be interesting when we talk about rental permits to sit there and say, okay, here's a 5-year look back of a number of rental permits per year. Because you don't really need that much of a gross number if you just go back 5 years, right? Because then you're looking at the trend of how many rental permits are coming through versus like new build and that sort of stuff. You can kind of back into it, right? Like, I'll be honest, we were just looking at selling our house and buying another house in Okemos. And I was considering not selling my old one and turning it into a rental because I paid low for it, so I can do well. Right? I mean, oh man, because that gets real nerdy in the data. So I'd say, okay, then not only the number of rental permits, but where is the owner residing? Are they within Okemos, or are we seeing like people from the outside buy in and then hold?
Oh, yeah.
That's deep. Like, that seems like a lot of work. And I'm hearing a lot about you have minimal staff and overworked staff, so I don't want to.
I don't know how much I
I've just
can
been here
do
for an hour and a
about.
half, so I don't really know what I'm saying, but I'm looking at it from a data perspective.
No, I think looking at rental versus ownership, I think there's a couple avenues I can look up to get you some kind of a picture.
Like when I became my HOA president, the first 5 emails I got were like 2 were about a fence, and then the other 3 were about, there's this rental house in the subdivision, what are you gonna do about it? And my response was, the documents say I can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do about it?
Bylaws.
Right.
Yeah, well, then we tried to do a bylaw update committee, and that went for 2 years. And then the person who was heading it up, she left. So, and I was like, I'm not backfilling.
So in the last 10 years, I can tell you, we put the recording's still going. We put a lot of rentals.
oh, sure we have.
Into this township.
Sure we have.
I mean, we've grown this township by about 15,000 people. And that wasn't through home ownership.
Well, and there've been a lot of differing, like, the last one I think we approved was the high-end, sort of upscale rentals, long-term, but, so it is a variety, and I think that whole missing middle piece that we keep talking about is worth continuing to talk about, because we're gonna run out of places to have that missing middle.
All the conversations I've ever seen about missing middle talks about the type of the housing, the duplexes, the quads. No one ever talks about, in these conferences I go to, no one ever says they gotta be affordable.
Not a bit.
They just gotta be available.
How about
I'm
the,
not trying to say anything, but
yeah.
maybe at 9 o'clock I get a little more cynical.
Nothing's available right now in the greater Lansing area.
Preach it.
There's about 50 or 60 homes available when there used to be 500 at a time.
Yeah, I know.
But we have a unique situation here in Meridian Township. We have people that have been entrenched here, that have lived here for a long time. They have large houses. They've gotten older. They are trying to downsize, but they don't want to leave the area where their friends are, and there's no place for them to go. And then on top of that, their children can't afford their house.
Right.
All of those things.
That's so true.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if they sell,
they're
it's gonna be lots of fun. We'll have a good time.
Yeah.
So are we ready?
Depending on how the recording of this went, there might be a lot of planning commission discussion in the next set of minutes.
Yeah, that will be fine. Yes, thank you. I'm sorry about the tech and hope that it gets corrected. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to
Okay,
adjourn.
Commissioner Brooks, move to adjourn. Who'd like to second it?
I second it.
Seconded by Commissioner Scales. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned at 9:00 PM.